in my opinion and observation, I think the biggest winners of these elections are like the DA and the white global capitalist elite, or the Western global capitalist elite, are the biggest winners of these elections. The biggest losers look like the ANC, and I think, yeah, clearly the ANC is like the biggest loser, followed by the EFF, and I guess COPE, if you want to put it that way. But the biggest winners, right, are MK Party, followed by the Patriotic Alliance, I think. But that's on paper. On paper, the biggest winner is MK. But in reality, the biggest winner is the DA and the white global elite. You need to remember that de Klerk, FW de Klerk, the last apartheid president of South Africa, said multiple times that one of their biggest goals in the next 30 years of black rule is to destroy the ANC. And they were like, Cyril is one of our last hopes to destroy the ANC. Now, yes, it didn't, it, in a way, yes, it did take Cyril to destroy the ANC, but it was a factional divergence by initially Julius Malema and lastly now Jacob Zuma that is technically destroying the ANC or pushing it to a voter base around below 50%. That was one of the biggest ambitions by de Klerk and his global partners. They're like, we need to destroy this party called the ANC. And their way of doing it was by funding Bosa, Armin Mashaba's Action SA, and all these other little small parties, Rise SA, Arise Mzansi, all these little small parties that are mushrooming up, that are highly funded by the Oppenheimer Party. That was what they thought was going to destroy the ANC. And that completely failed. That fell flat on its ass. They probably spent 100 million rands for nothing, for like three, five. They should just give that money to Gayton Mackenzie because that amounted to shit. But the factional divergence by Jacob Zuma to the MK Party is what just put the ANC below 50%. Because if you add ANC and MK Party, you get like 53%, right? So it's safe to assume that maybe, right, they would have gotten to 50%. The other three would have remained with the EFF, or the other three would have went to the smaller parties. But I doubt that was going to happen. Maybe a young 50, 49% is what they were going to get. But the biggest destruction was by the ANC. Now, because it's a factional divergence and not an ideological divergence, that is now what the ANC or Cyril Ramaphosa has to deal with in reality. Is he going to now continue to factionally diverge the ANC, or is he now going to ideologically diverge the ANC? Because now who is he going to form his coalition government with? And that will dictate whether he continues to completely destroy the ANC or he preserves it for another two elections. If he goes with the DA led opposition, DA, EFF, IFP, PA, that might. If he keeps the EFF, he might reduce the Cyril Ramaphosa, he might reduce the ideological fallout if he retains the EFF in his coalition government. If he completely listens to the DA and keeps the EFF out, keeps MK out, he will cause another factional. He will cause an ideological split in the ANC that will look like a factional split, but it will be an ideological split, much like the PAC was, right? An ideological split, and that will, I think, put the final nail in the coffin, and Body Clerk and their global elites will be happy. Now, like I said, I feel like they won because that was their goal, but it's not yet like finalized because there's still negotiations. But because the DA has the second highest vote staff, I think they have better negotiating strength than the EFF. And also, Ramaphosa is particularly very friendly with the DA, and or they have the same like masters or the same funders. So they sit at the same table and discuss the same things with the same people. Even though Cyril Ramaphosa heads a ideologically different party, him personally, I think he's more ideologically aligned with the DA, and the global white supremacist elites. So it'll depend whether he's going to follow his personal ideology or his party's ideology, and that will result in the kind of government that we have, and ultimately the fallout of the ANC. Now, the funny thing is, right, the global elites funded the referendum party, which also completely failed. Another 50, 100 million gone to shit. But the Western Cape Referendum Party was to vote for the splitting of the Western Cape from South Africa and create, in their own words, Israel in South Africa, creating a colonial white settler destructive new country at the tip of Africa to separate the West, the pro-Western people from the, I don't know, anti-West or pro-East, I don't know, but bro, we're just African. We're just trying to be African in Africa. But the Western Cape Referendum Party is trying to detach Western Cape from South Africa. Now, what they're going to do now, or what they're trying to do now, is annex KZN or try and push MK, ANC, MK, and strategically just generally Zulu people into a corner so that they can then be like, yeah, get your own KZN. And yeah, Zulu people will definitely might fall for it. I think Zulu people will fall for it. I think Zulu people will find a lot of comfort and pride and happiness and be like, yeah, KwaZulu is now our own country as Zulu people. Zulu people will fall for it. But ultimately, it is a land ideologically financial destruction of continued separation of, divide and conquer black people. Now, if Zulu people fall for this, they'll be pushed into a corner and pushed to become violent so that they can try and be like, yeah, let's annex this KZN. Best case scenario, they want to annex both KZN and the Western Cape. Just continue to slice up this country for their own benefit, because we know that they rule the Zulu National, Zulu Royal House. If I say it out loud, you might come for me, but that's my assumption, that's my opinion. Because the Zulu Royal House is affiliated with the ANC and the IFP, who are very close with the National Party. So the biggest winners white people in this election, and that just says to say, black South Africans, young people, we're exactly where we were. Our assumption that 2024 is 1994 was spot on. That was a perfect analogy, and that's exactly where we are. Cyril Ramaphosa is a new Mandela, forming a government of unity with racist white people, and the difference now is, back then the whites were like, let's just give these blacks, hey, you know what, hey, you're going to Australia, let's just give these people, let's just step back and just like look and watch. And yeah, maybe the deep down hardcore Afrikaners, Eugene the Plant, were like, no, our fatherland, the Falkland, whatever the fuck, but generally whites were just like, hey. But now there's a new confidence, and we've seen it this entire Cyril Ramaphosa presidency. There's a new confidence in white people. And if John stays and becomes deputy president, there's a newfound confidence in white people, where even like white people in other European countries have this gall and this nerve to come to South Africa and start fucking referendum parties, or just tell us who we need to be and what we need to do. So there's a newfound confidence in white people, and they're not going to let it slip this time around. So if young black folks are the one that are going to take a back seat, yeah, we're going to go to a point where the 80% are democratically ruling the majority. We're going to find ourselves in a legal apartheid that we voted for. If we take a backseat and we let the whites get comfortable in the flip of 1994, where we were the ones getting comfortable and they took the backseat. That is the biggest threat of these elections. The splitting of KZN off from South Africa, and or just young black South Africans taking a fucking backseat and waking up 20 years later and our kids are in a legal apartheid that we voted for, or we just fucking put our feet up. But I doubt it's going to happen, because economically we're definitely fighting. Politically we're definitely fighting. I just feel like sometimes we don't see behind the veil. We don't see the puppet master's actual intent, because we fall into the trap of the puppet master's actual intent. Because if you play chess, that sometimes you make certain moves hoping that your opponent does this, and then that this is your counter. You've planned your counter 3 steps ahead, and when people keep doing that to us and you keep falling for it, you need to be careful. There's some truth to what the rest of the content is saying, and that is part of my argument. We're also neo-colonialized and imperialized just the same way that you are. And we end up, not necessarily